District 2 for re-election as County Commissioner. And District 2, as you know, is mostly made up of Oak Harbor. And in the primary, top two primary, this is a very important race. You might not realize it, but Oak Harbor tends to run heavily Republican. This is something we have to take into consideration. This is not Angie's problem. This is not Oak Harbor's problem. This is the entire county's problem.
Right.
And she needs our help, and she's going to need it before October 6th, I think, is the primary date. So with that, August, did I say? Okay, August 6th. Yes, it's coming up quickly. With that, I'd like to introduce Angie.
Yes.
Thank you, Wayne. Good afternoon. I'm Angie Hamola, Island County Commissioner, District 2. And first, I really just want to thank everybody who made this possible, Island County Democrats, and especially folks that really were instrumental in making all these things happen here, John Bowitt and Suzanne Ashworth. Thank you so much. And our little band that we had with Jerry Jones.
And Wayne.
Jerry Jones, Mr.
Wyatt.
Hughes, and on the saxophone, my son, Wyatt Hamola.
Yes.
So this is a wonderful place. I'm glad we're here in Windjammer Park here in District 2 looking out over Oak Harbor and the water. It's gorgeous. It's part of Washington's gems. I've lived here in Washington for 30 years. I've lived here in Oak Harbor for the better part of my adult life, raised my children here. I met my husband when I was at architecture school at Washington State University, where we were both studying architecture. We went on to get married and bring our family here, fortunately, because the Navy brought him here. He's a pilot in the Navy, and he was stationed here, Naval Air Station, Whidbey Island. We built our home, and our kids have been in our schools here. We just got back last night from watching our daughter graduate from the University of Washington in oceanography. So she's going on to get her master's, or to get another degree in mechanical engineering. So hats off to her, and that's all from the local school here. This is where my kids went to school. My son's elected president next year, so that'll be fun. He went home to study, actually. There's lots of folks around here that we volunteered with, scuba diving in the lagoon to take out garbage, or whether we were pulling noxious weeds or helping to install the playground out here at Fort Nugent Park, or working for our help house that we have a donation jar here for. It's all part of the community. It's all very important. And I did all those things because I thought it was the right thing to do. And then at some point I realized I needed to do a little bit more. That if I didn't get into a policy-making position, I couldn't really help affect change. So having seen some things that were going on that were concerning to me, I ran for office in 2008. I was elected as commissioner in 2009. And as my partner, Helen Price Johnson, has spoken to, we entered at the beginning of the worst recession this county has endured and is still enduring. Coming in, it was really very little known that we had just reduced expenses by $2 million coming on board for our budget year of 2009, but used over $3 million of our rainy day fund. Not long after we took our jobs, we were informed that that wasn't enough. We needed to cut another 2, followed by another 1.2, followed by another 2. So overall, that was about a 20%, or about a $6 million reduction out of what was a $26 million general fund budget. That took some huge, heavy lifting to do, and it wasn't without sacrifice. We couldn't have done it without all of our partners at the county and all of the staff that do all those things to try to keep the mandated services and the essential services to our community that's so important. And there's still hard work to do. In spite of all those cuts, which included freezing elected officials' salaries, not giving cost of living increases now in 4 years, cutting hours, closing our doors for some time so that folks can get their work done, we still managed to do some really amazing things. We've brought on board some new technology to make things a little bit easier for the public. We've streamlined a lot of our programs. We have put together an Adopt a Parks program because there was a point, without some help from the state, that we actually couldn't keep toilet paper in our Santa cans in our parks. So this is about how lean we are. And when we knew we had to take the last cut, we didn't just cut across the board. We actually looked at every single department, what was mandated, what wasn't, and there's only about a 1% part of our budget that's not mandated. And that's to make sure we're still feeding old people and we have animal control and a little bit for drunk driving panel. That's about it. But if that's important to all of us to keep those things, it's important for us to think about where we are and where we're going. And at the end of the day, it's up to you guys to decide that. We also want to take really good care of our water. We only have a sole source aquifer, meaning we have no rivers. We have only the rain that percolates through our soil that recharges those aquifers for 70% of our population here. So through our leadership, we've been able to put a clean water program in place that'll have a lot of far-reaching effects on us, that will got our hydrogeologists back on board and thinking about the future. We've also upgraded our technology, made it so we're not scanning checks by hand and so forth. But we still have a lot of important things to do. This is a huge turning point. This is our backyard. This is our community. It's difficult to work in an environment where there's an effort to undo local government, to just bring it to its knees. You spend a lot of time just trying to struggle to get us back where the facts are facts, where we're headed down a straight keel for progress, and not constantly trying to just fix generated problems that are unnecessary, wasteful, and use our very sparse resources. So it's really important, I think, that we continue to inform people to the best of our ability, because at the end of the day, you guys vote on what you want your future to look like. I think it's very important that we take care of our resources. If we're not taking care of them, we can't sustain ourselves. We can't remain solvent. We can't remain a nation on our own. We need to feed ourselves. We need to protect the water. So that's critical to me. I'm working hard to try to work closely with the partners at our sister cities to put everybody at the same table so we can decide, how do we want to look 30 years down the road? How do we want to grow? How are we going to get people on and off the islands? How are we going to keep our wildlife corridors open so we can do the right thing now and not have to clean it up later when our kids grow up? So just to share a story with you, I recently had the opportunity to teach government to 5 classes over at the high school. It was all the same curriculum that they were learning, so I had to teach the same thing to each class. And I had the chance to talk a little bit about county government, what it does, and I gave each one of them a job: budget director, public works director, human services director, and so on. And then they read all their job responsibilities. And they had a chance at the end to prioritize what they thought was their topmost priority and to make a decision from the beginning. Do we have enough revenue, yes or no? And then they had a chance to change their mind at the end. It was very interesting. Out of all 5 classes, there was some very right-leaning, some very left-leaning, but at the end of the day, they prioritized public governmental services very highly, with their top priority being public health. Their second priority was public works, and their third priority was human services. Oh. Followed by law and justice, which tied with the environment and parks, and lastly was land use, which I know I didn't have a lot of influence on because that was my top priority. But they were really paying attention, and they realized it takes money. And when I told them their job responsibilities for the budget director, and I said, you know, you've got to run the budget, manage all of that, and they're reading it, and they said, oh, and due to budget cuts, I'm also in charge of the IT department, so I got to take care of the computers and the software and the upgrades and the telephones. Oh, and due to budget cuts, I'm also in charge of the general services department, so I have to handle public defense and our liability, and I have to deal with tax complaints. And I said, just so you know, you have to work about 60 hours a week, 60 or 70. I haven't given you an increase for 4 years, and, you know, is that okay with you? Well, I guess I'll do it now, but I sure wouldn't do it for a real job. So just want to hats off to our senior kids at high school, that they're thinking about the future and they prioritize what was important, and they realize if we all pitch a few pennies into the jar, then we can all have services. And those are things we expect every day when we drive on the roads, when we pick up our cell phone and we need to call ICOM, or we need to get to the hospital. It takes a village. And it's so important that we work together as a community. And I want to be here for you the next time around so Helen and I can work together and try to work with our staff to secure our future here in Island County. Thank you very much.
All right, Angie.